Hi, I'm Larry,
I'm Gret.
I'm Christy.
and welcome to Dangerous Drag Queens and Other Deviants.
A podcast about the outrageous and sometimes dark world of drag, gender, and sexual identity, and how communities facing stigmatization are making a positive impact just by living their lives out loud.
Brought to you by Virtual Arts.
It's very late here. Okay, it's 7.
Oh, yeah, it is. That's right. You're getting punchy.
Very punchy.
Hi, everybody. I'm Larry.
I'm Gret.
And I'm Christy. Welcome back to another episode of Dangerous Drag Queens and Other Deviants.
Today's guest is a dear friend of Virtual Arts and a personal friend of mine. His name is Jamie Morris. He's the writer and performer of a new parody just premiered this summer in Provincetown. It's called The Devil Wears Payless. And we know him as a prolific writer, a fabulous actor, and a former Father Mark of Tony and Tina's Wedding.
Oh, yeah. Well, let's bring him in. We love us some Jamie. We have with us today the amazing Jamie Morris. How are you today, Jamie?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm doing well. And you're still in Cape Cod, correct?
I am. I have a few more weeks. October 8th, I get on the ferry and leave. Yeah.
And what's that ferry's name?
Bittersweet. Exact. Tim. It's Mark. It just depends on the boat you take.
Wow.
Yeah, no, it'll be a bittersweet moment because I love it here so much. But it's time to get home. Yeah, to Vegas.
You're such a great fit for Provincetown.
I love it here. It's such a great community, just welcoming artists, birthplace of American theater, and it's magical to do what I love in my happy place. Yeah, it's very grateful.
Why don't you begin to tell us a little bit about what you're doing up there right now?
I wrote a little skit, a little parody play called The Devil Wears Payless, based on the movie. And I have a cast of 4 amazing actors, well, 3 amazing actors and me. And they're all locals, and it's like lightning in a bottle when you find those people that you jive with and who are good on stage and you like to hang out off stage and you genuinely care for them. We do the whole movie in 55 minutes with a twist. I play Miranda, and yeah, it's a lot of fun. We're having a blast.
I didn't realize that they were locals that you cast. How does that casting process usually work for you? Do you kind of have it cast before you go out there, or do you go out there and then cast it and then start rehearsals?
This time, I cast it when I was back in Vegas. I usually just hold auditions via Zoom or FaceTime, and just from recommendations of people. And Jonathan, who I worked with last year in Sharks Creek, he was David and Johnny. Now he's the Emily Blunt role, and Jacqueline Follet in an over-the-top performance that is just brilliant. So he and I kind of built the show together creatively, not the writing part, but he was also the costume designer and the wig designer. And he's really good with makeup, and some other drag queens in town helped with my look to teach me how to do the eyes and stuff, because I'm not great with makeup. I get it. I can get it done. I hate putting it on. I love taking it off. But it's part of the process. You have to, if you're going to be Miranda, you have to look like her. So he helped build the show in that way. And I worked with him, and then 2 other actors came. I knew kind of one socially-ish, and the other one never met her in my life. And they're just amazing.
It's the way to do it, especially with the kinds of shows that you've been doing. I mean, the market's ripe there for talent of that kind, I would think.
The talent's here. It's they're just so spread thin. That's the problem. They have day jobs and night jobs, and they're in this show and guesting in this show and creating this, and
I'm sure summer season is busy too there, obviously.
It's so busy. It's June, July, August. September's been pretty busy too. It's shoulder season, but there's enough people, and the weather's gorgeous, and it's not that craziness of July and August, which can be just because we have to bark our shows on the street, which is promoting in character, which is one of the most soul-sucking things one could ever imagine to do. Yeah.
I did. I was.
Nowhere in the world except maybe Edinburgh you do this.
And Jamie, it's your how many parodies have you written now? It's at least the second or third that I know of, right?
7. It's the
Seven.
7th.
Oh,
Yeah. It's my 5th world premiere in Provincetown, and the other 2 were in world premiered in Dallas.
Can you do a
He keeps
super
track.
quick run of them? I'm curious which one was the first and what got you into doing them.
Mommy Queerest,
oh yes, of
based
course.
on Mommy Dearest, where Joan is really a man hiding it all those years. The Facts of Life, the lost episode, where the girls have to raise money to keep Mrs. Garrett at Eastland, so they become hookers. So it's the best little whorehouse meets Facts of Life. The Silence of the Clams was the third. Redesigning Women, where Suzanne signs them up to be on a reality TV show about their lives, and then the second act is a big fight on Watch What Happens Live with Andy Cohen. Gilligan's Fire Island, where this twink gets knocked overboard from the Fire Island ferry and washes ashore on Gilligan's Island, and then he thinks Ginger's a drag queen. He thinks the professor's daddy. Like, he assigns all these roles to everybody. And then Sharks Creek,
Yes.
with the last 2 summers, and then we toured with it, and now Double Worst Payments.
So fabulous. So fantastic. You've done so well with these, honestly. And the time is right for it. I feel like the market is dying for things they recognize and they want to go see a little twist on it. So
They're just silly, and I want people to escape for an hour, and just,
yeah.
especially with the world's in a dumpster fire.
Now, we know that you are not a drag queen in your day job in real life.
I'm not that good. There are queens out there who are fierce. Everyone's like, you're a drag. I'm like, and I don't shy away from that term, because what I do in my roles are drag. It's
Right.
drag. But I'm not like my partner Christopher is Edie, and all the legends out there who are true drag queens. And I'm like I said, I can barely do my own makeup.
Does someone train you to do Miranda's face in particular, and then you just learn how to recreate it yourself day after day?
She showed me once, and then her name's Raquel Blake, and she's from Dallas, but originally from Massachusetts, and she's an amazing drag performer and makeup artist. And she, for the video shoot when we had to film some stuff for the play, she did my face, and then I think did it for opening night, and then slowly showed me, and I got everything but the eyes. And then she would come in every day and do my eyes until she had to go out of town late in the summer. And so I learned it in 2 days while she watched, and then I was on my own. And now I just do them on my own. And now I'm like, oh, it was that easy. I could have just done it this whole time. But and in fact, she's doing my eyes today, because I'm resurrecting Moira Rose for a roast of a queen who's leaving.
Oh.
So I have to, and I was never happy with my eyes as Moira. So I'm like, can you do my eyes tonight? And hopefully I'll learn something if I ever do Moira again after tonight. So yeah.
And you had really great success with that show too. You performed in a few different markets, right?
Yeah, I think it just hit at the right time, because it was in 2022. It was right out of lockdown ish, and that's the show that got us through lockdown. I mean, that's when it won all the Emmys. The series finale was when we were all hunkered down, and it kind of just got us through.
Yeah.
Jamie, so is your next piece going to be about the election that's occurring in America?
God, no. That's a parody of itself. I'll sometimes in a script I'll pepper in like 1 or 2 lines, because you also never know where you're going to play. You could play in a red state or a red county or a red town, and they're very sensitive. So like in the especially the deep South. And I was talking to a friend from Alabama the other day, and she said she moved from Vegas to be with her mom, because who's elderly, and she moved out there with a Filipino friend. And like, we don't want your kind here. The Trump trucks and flags going through the neighborhood, and just destroying yard signs, and it's just so ugly, so ugly.
I think you have a unique perspective on the country. Well, the world, really, because you're taking your shows even internationally. and performing in different markets. Maybe you can talk a little bit about that, what you feel when you bring a show like Mommy Queerest or any of your parodies to different markets. You're not just performing in Las Vegas or just in P-Town where it's very comfortable and familiar to everyone. You're performing all over the country and in Mexico, and you must feel the difference in the markets.
Yeah, like last night we had, thank God, a really nice big house, especially for a Wednesday and off season. But they were just dead quiet. I mean, not dead quiet, like 80 people, and it felt like there were like 20 people had seen the movie, maybe. Larry knows because I deliver this line, the whole cerulean monologue, and I don't say cerulean. I let the audience, their interns in the show, I let them say it. And normally it's like cerulean, and the whole audience says cerulean, and I go cerulean, yes. Even the interns know that. Last night, like 2 people said cerulean. I was like, whoa! Like these are people who just wanted to see something. They had no idea the source material, and they did perk up, and toward the end they were quite on fire. But at first I was like, they don't know what's going on. So and I said to Jonathan, we performed in Fort Lauderdale before. That tends to be an older crowd who, Fort Lauderdale, they go to see everything. Like they're really supportive. They show up. But you'll have, like retirees from Boca, drive in, they're there 3 hours early waiting. You're like, there's nothing to do in this lobby. So I don't know what you're doing this early. And then they just come and they're like, well, I've never seen The Devil Wears Prada, but it looks funny, and then you'll get an audience of like just stares and you're like, this is a comedy. But last night felt like a Fort Lauderdale audience, not every
Yes.
audience. Puerto Vallarta I find very similar to the States because it's a lot of Americans and Canadians on vacation, so it's not a lot of the locals go to the shows because
Okay, yeah.
maybe the
I was
language
gonna say-
barrier.
Oh, that's true. And by default, someone buying a ticket to your show is clearly comfortable with drag and wants to watch it.
I hope so. Yeah, I mean they just saw us on the street, so yeah. And
Right.
and so we don't really get political. And men dressing up as women is age old. Yeah, especially when it's theatrical and it's just used as a device for comedy. Drag there for a while got a really bad rap with thanks to Ron DeSantis, and all his hateful allies. Drag queen story hour, where parents would bring their kids to listen to just stories, children's stories read by a drag queen. And, they just see sparkly lady, sparkly big tall lady, with, lots of makeup, reading me a story. And then, you have other people just who have to get in everyone's business and just call it, pornography or whatever they call it. It's just, or they're grooming our children. So I think most people don't have a problem with it at all. I think most people find it, funny, and who doesn't love drag?
And I do feel like this middle America, no matter who they are, really appreciates the art form.
Yeah.
They're always very supportive of it because even in Tony and Tina's wedding, sometimes the gay characters were the most popular characters.
Yeah.
And I think that it always surprises me when there's such pushback from basically that same community in terms of political aspects, like because I think that if we do see a change in government here, that there will be issues for the drag community, and let alone for gay people. But it seems to me that it's part of the American mainstream already.
It is. I mean, RuPaul's Drag Race is, it just made it mainstream, acceptable. When my partner used to do drag before that, even in New York City, he was like, kind of, it was like under the cloak of darkness. You would go to head to the bar and do your gig and come home. It was still like there was a stigma attached that was, like, oh, that's drag, that's a freak. Now it's just like girls are doing their makeup like drag queens. They're seeing tutorials, and they're shading their cheeks and their nose. And there was this waitress once, and I was like, it was like brunch, and I was like, oh God. She came to the table, and I was like, she had like drag makeup on, and like and she had a little petite nose, and then she was shading it, put a little white dot button there, and I'm like, girl, you don't need that. You're already a woman. We have to erase this and start over. Like you're a woman, but she clearly learned from drag queens, and I was like, all right, you go. If you know, if you're happy and you feel pretty, get it. But no, it's so mainstream now, and it's it has its pros and cons, especially for the legendary queens who started it. You know, who started way before these RuPaul girls were even born, and now they're taking all the jobs, and it's hard for you know the ones who've been
Yes.
around for a while to get the jobs.
It's really about performance art much more. So it becomes very different. That's why it's so great to go and see the pieces that you do, because it commingles performance art and drag in a really wonderful way.
Well, I'd love like Charles Bush. Like he's a huge inspiration. Just you know, I'm not on his level at all, but just that what he did and what he's still doing, with his plays and being in drag, and I was like, oh, I can play that, I can play the role. It does, and I think it just heightens the comedy. Now it used to be I only had all male casts when that was a thing, because I remember it was like the all male cast of the Facts of Life, blah, blah, blah. And now I'm like, so now I shy away from that because we have a cis female, a lesbian playing Andy. Last year we had a non-binary / lesbian play in Sharks Creek, and I just it's now open to everyone, because I'm like, you can't have all male cast anymore. It's the patriarchy is dead, or it should be. Um,
Yes,
but
amen.
but pre Me Too and all that, when I just didn't know better, we would bill it as the all male Facts of Life. But now I don't do that. I don't do that anymore.
Any thoughts about what your next piece will be? Are you throwing things around in your mind?
Yeah, I'm close. I usually announce it the day I get on the ferry. I'm 50-50. One is I've always wanted to parody Death Becomes Her. I would probably call it Drag Becomes Them.
Yeah,
Um,
perfect.
but I don't know if it has enough. It's kind of a cult movie, and it's from 30 years ago.
Mhm.
Um, I don't know if the youngins would come. There are some gay people I talked to, like, yeah, I've never seen that movie, and I'm like, what?
Yeah.
But I think I'm leaning toward, and this was my partner Christopher's idea, the Golden Mean Girls.
I'm almost surprised you haven't done a Golden Girls one
Me,
yet.
since I began doing this 21 years ago. When are you doing the Golden Girls? And back then you couldn't do the Golden Girls because friends of mine did it in New York and got shut down with a cease and desist from Susan Harris, the creator.
Oh wow.
She
Mm,
owns it. She wrote the pilot and she owns it lock, stock, and barrel. But
Yeah.
she now there's a million Golden Girls troops. She doesn't say a word.
Hmm.
So I don't know whether she's old and doesn't care, or I don't know, but she doesn't do anything anymore. And also parody laws are really gray. So I
Mm.
think the more you make it your own, every time I do a show, I'm like, well, here comes the cease and desist. Like I always
right.
wait for it. Dan Levy, I'm gonna get it in the mail. Dan Levy is
Yeah.
gonna.
Yeah, yeah. But aren't the Golden Girls already mean?
Uh,
They're
yeah,
so
there are
mean.
some episodes where they're really mean to each other. Yeah, yeah, acid tongue. In Piton, you have to come up with the title first.
Mhm.
Does it hook people? Is it a good barking show? And then I write around that. Right now, in my head, it's Blanche goes back to school because she falls in love with a 19-year-old boy who was held back. So she goes and she becomes Regina George, and then enlists the help of the girls. Sophia might be the cafeteria lady. Dorothy, you're a substitute teacher, and Rose, you can teach or be in special ed. I don't know, something like that. I don't. It's there's ideas swirling, so I don't know. Yeah,
There, it's coming.
yeah,
And by the time this airs, you will have probably announced.
Yes.
maybe. Yeah, you think about it. Like even the things that All in the Family was tackling. Norman Lear, man, what a genius!
Oh,
What a
God.
genius.
Yes, he really was. I loved it. And they weren't parody, but in some ways they all felt like parody. Well, they feel like parody when you watch them today.
Yeah.
There's something very fascinating about that.
Well, especially like All in the Family, he tried to make it mirror society, and just show that racism right to us, and put it right in our face, and yet you loved Archie and you sympathized with him, in his ignorance. So it was, yeah, very smart and ahead of its so ahead of its time. Like it wasn't, it wasn't a fluffy sitcom from the 60s. The 70s kind of changed the landscape, making it.
Yes.
And that's what I grew up on. I always call it, like watching the Carol Burnett show and all that stuff. Watching it, I call it a master class on a shag carpet, like just like
Yes.
absorbing all of this. And as a kid, I didn't know I was storing it away, and
Right.
and then like, yeah, there's all those like Carol Burnett, Marley Gibbs from 227, B. Arthur, all those just funny ladies that I get to maybe channel just a little bit, just a little bit.
Who do you think of that time era was the group or the show that formed you?
Carol Burnett
In,
show.
Mm.
100%. I met her in Vegas after a show of hers, and I cried.
I think I would cry if I met her.
Cried.
Absolutely.
But I was in a line to meet her, and my friends, he arranged the meet and greet, and his boyfriend at the time, they're no longer together, and now you'll know why when I tell you this. He's right before me, and I'm the last person in line. He comes up to her and says, he has no idea who she is, and says, "Hi, good luck." Good luck to Carol Burnett. And I had to go up, and she's like lovely, but she's like ready to take a picture, and I'm like, "I'm sorry, can I say something?" And I just said, and through tears, I said, "I'm an actor and a writer, and you're a huge part of why I do what I do." And I was like, "Whoa!" Then we took a picture, and in the picture, you can see the tears in my eyes. And she's the loveliest, yeah, nicest lady in show business.
We were talking before we got on about how Jamie grew up in Martinsburg, West Virginia. Martinsburg, West Virginia, which is not far from where I live in Maryland.
Wow.
That's okay. It's hard for me to get West Virginia out of my mouth as well.
wow, what the hell was it like growing up there?
Yeah.
It's actually really well. Back then, those 5 electoral votes always went to the Democrat. It was
Hmm.
and it was a blue state until it wasn't, and now it's one of the reddest. Right outside of DC, um, it was normal. Like I had a very normal middle class, not upper middle class, just middle to maybe slightly poor. Just normal upbringing. Never wanted for anything. Only child, totally supported by my mom and my grandparents to do this silly thing. Never said you have to have a fallback career. Which some days I wish they'd said you should really have a fallback. When the work is like, I really should have a skill. They gave me this safety net, and I looking back, I'm like, West Virginia, a young gay kid in theater. I wasn't out then, but I was just blessed that they supported me.
When did you have the first idea of being able to kind of doing the parodies?
It
Or
was
were you
in
doing back
it was in
then?
Provincetown, 2001, and was my our first summer here, and I was just helping my partner Christopher, who's Edie. It was her first summer performing here, and we had to bark on the street, and I swear to God, we like cried ourselves to sleep every night because it was just so awful the way you have to promote your show to people can be very rude. So 2001 and 2 helped Edie, and then I proposed to the owner of the theater. Said, I have an idea for a show, and he said, "Oh, blah blah blah," and they booked me, and then I was like, "Oh, now I have to write it." So then I came up with the title, and then wrote it, and then we debuted the next summer.
You keep mentioning Edie. Is that Edie Grey Gardens? Edie? Oh
No,
no.
So Edie is a performer. Her biggest gig was hosting Cirque du Soleil's Humanity in Vegas. That's why we're there. 13,
Oh.
the MC took
Okay.
over for Joey Arias, legendary queen from New York.
Oh,
Um,
okay.
did it 13 years, over 5,600 shows. But it got him the Cirque gig. It got him Broadway through Penny Opera. So it's
Oh,
and
that's
it's
fantastic.
full time
Yeah.
a full time gig. Yeah. So now he's back on the road. She's back on the road, and
Sure.
also here are summers with me directing the shows and then doing solo shows.
You both have had wonderful careers.
Knock on wood. Right. And 25 years together. It's crazy.
Oh, congrats. That's great.
Amazing.
I am
25.
I'm 26. Oh my, yeah, it's crazy.
That's amazing.
It's
Yeah.
funny. We're only in our 30s. I don't know how that happened.
I don't
I
know,
know,
how.
it's
How does
amazing.
it happen?
Is the
How
lighting
does
good
it
enough for that?
Oh, I'll put a haze filter on it.
Exactly. Thank you.
So,
I'd like
None
the
necessary. No
I'd like the-
filter
I'd
necessary.
like the Barbara Walters mattress filter. Just
Christy,
really-
you gonna do our quick fires?
Some rapid fire question for you.
okay.
When you want to feel super glam, what's one makeup item that you use?
Oh God. In drag.
Yeah.
Glam. This new eyeshadow from a company called Painted.co, and Raquel Blake turned me onto it. It's a cream, and I've never done a cream eye before. I've done powder, and it tends to stick to the wrinkles, and then the cream just kind of erases it. So Painted.co is, and I mix two together to get the Miranda Gray.
Oh, very nice. Do you have a favorite pair of heels that you perform in?
Well, for Payless, she's supposed to be wearing Payless shoes, but I'm wearing aerosols for one in the show. I bark in one and I perform in one. I can't remember which is which. One is aerosols, and one is Easy Spirit. I always say it looks like a pump, smells like a sneaker.
I love that. Oh, and then last one is going to be, do you have a favorite audience that you've performed for, or one show that really sticks out in your head as like, this was the
God.
greatest?
There's so many that stick out, and it's usually when things go wrong. You don't remember the smooth ones. We were in Fort Lauderdale doing Mommy Queerest, and we're doing a scene, and Brooks Brazelman, one of the most amazing character actors on the planet, playing adult Christina, and had that kind of white, blonde, platinum, curly adult hair. And there was a roach. There was so much hairspray, the roach was crawling on top of the wig, palmetto, as they say in Fort Florida,
Right.
just crawling on top of the wig. And the audience could see it. I could see it. Brooks had no idea what we're talking about. And so it just stops the show. This roach stops the show. And I knock it down, and it lands on the ground and walks across the stage through the main curtain that the audience comes through. At the center split, just goes right through. And I said, as Joan Crawford, I said, and stay out. Didn't even purchase a ticket. And the audience we couldn't get him back because it's like this roach just stole the show. And I'm like, we can just go home.
Our work
That's
here is
amazing.
done. It's one of the most Florida theatrical stories I've
Thank
ever
you. Yeah.
in my life.
Yeah. Literally upstaged by a roach in Florida. Yeah.
That's amazing.
Jamie, before we let you go, is there anywhere folks can find you online if they want to look up your projects or see what's coming up next?
Oh God, I'm so bad with social media. Jamie Morris on Facebook. We do have a Devil Wears Payless page, which we just created. So follow, because my other Instagram is JamieMO_1027.
Well, on that note, thank you
Thank
so
you.
much, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good
Take
to
care.
see you, my friend.
Have a good day, y'all.
Oh, I just love Jamie Morris. Wasn't he a fabulous guest?
He just is. He's such a good energy and just a light.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and really somebody that you can count on. I think that's one of the things that I've always felt about Jamie is that in Tony Tina's wedding, we could call him at any time, and you could just see that he wants to work, and
Absolute
and-
pro. A pro.
yeah, and he's not afraid of it.
No, high standards without any pretense. That's my most favorite thing about Jamie. He just shows up and does the work to a very high standard, and
Yes.
he raises other people around him up, which I love.
Yeah, he does, and he's gay.
And he's gay. I mean,
No way.
is there anything better?
Yes. Yes, but I understand that he got rid of all of his pets because he was afraid that Haitians were going to eat them. Is that
Oh
true?
my God.
Claire.
I walked right into that one.
We all did.
Everybody is talking about this. I don't care how good Jamie's shows are, and they're fantastic. They're just not as weird as reality.
Oh my gosh, reality is so weird these days, isn't
Yeah.
it?
Yeah.
Right. Right. I mean, I think that Donald Trump should, eat Clarence Thomas. That to me would.
I know if we wrote these things into a parody, people would say that's too far fetched. I don't buy it.
Well, I love, Trump always loves the silence of the lambs.
Are we starting the rumor that Trump's accountable? Is that what's happening right now?
He
Don't
started
start
it
it.
himself.
Don't start it because it'll become really big on social media and then he'll win the election.
Oh,
Okay.
Right.
You're right.
Yeah, the dog stuff, the dog and cat stuff is enough. And I understand there's a goose in there too.
Oh yeah, they're eating the geese now. It was true because you saw it on TV.
Yeah.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
David
Well.
Muir, I must correct you, sir. News anchor. I've seen
Speaking
this on
of-
television.
Did we all like at the same point at watching it? Like I fell in love with David Muir. There was a point where I turned to my husband and I was like, oh, don't you just love him right now?
He's great anyway, but they showed such restraint that night.
Yeah.
Because that's not easy.
No.
Not at all.
It really isn't. Well, thank you guys. It's always good to be here for another episode of this insanity.
See you next time. Don't forget to like and subscribe to Dangerous Drag Queens and Other Deviants, as well as Virtual Arts on Facebook, Instagram, X, and YouTube. And be sure to check us out at www.virtualartsproductions.org for all our latest projects.
And if you like what you hear, please share it with a friend. That's all for now. Keep living dangerously and on your own terms.